Going to invite unwanted guests to our wedding after we said no? Watch this. This happened a few years ago, but it's still satisfying to think about. At the time, I wasn't on speaking terms with one of my brothers for a good reason. He had tried to start a fist fight with my now husband, and his wife had threatened to shoot me. We were engaged, and I had made it very clear to both him and the rest of the family that he was not invited to the wedding. But my mom decided to take matters into her own hands. She reached out to him, claiming she had talked to him, and that he and his wife had promised to behave. I reminded her that he was absolutely not invited, that she had no right to do that, and that she needed to call him back and let him know. Her response? She said, "But he's your brother, and think of the family." To make things worse, we were getting relentless pressure to pay for an open bar, even though we don't drink, and to book a bigger venue, despite wanting a small, intimate wedding. Where was all this pressure coming from? None other than my alcoholic mother, who wanted to invite a bunch of relatives I had never met and take advantage of an open bar. I was at my breaking point. One Monday evening, just a couple of months before the wedding, I had a conversation with my now husband. "What are you doing tomorrow?" I asked. "Hanging out with you." "Why?" he replied. "Want to get married?" I asked. "Are you serious?" "Hell yeah," he said. And we did. We eloped the next day with just us and a couple of friends who offered to officiate. We saved thousands of dollars, avoided all the drama, and had the small, intimate wedding we had wanted all along. Honestly, I wish we had done this from the start. When my mom found out, she lost it. She went all over Facebook, posting about how I had robbed her of the chance to see her daughter's wedding, and asking for sympathy. Of course, she conveniently left out all the details leading up to it, making it sound like I had heartlessly excluded her. Funny thing is, we would have had the wedding as planned if she had respected our decisions. So no, you don't get to invite unwanted guests, make demands, or attend our wedding if you can't respect our choices.
Boss chiseled me out of 100 and paid the price. I'm a contractor. A while back, I was working on a project in a very remote location. To make things smoother, I made a deal with the county facility where I would be working. I would bring in 2 rounds of breakfast tacos for their staff over the week in exchange for free use of their copy machines. The boss approved this over the phone, and the total for the tacos came out to just over $100. Great deal, considering their copy budget was over $1,000. At the end of the billing cycle, about a week or two after he had verbally approved the expense, I submitted my receipts along with my credit card statement for proof. But when I followed up, the expense was declined. I wasn't livid at first. Annoyed, sure. I thought that maybe there was a mix-up. But a deal's a deal. So I called the boss to remind him he had approved the expense. His response? He said, "You should have gotten it in writing." Oh, that pissed me off. But I swallowed my pride, finished the project as promised, and moved on. A week later, I was already working on a new project for a different client. A couple of months later, guess who called? Yep, the same boss who had chiseled me out of that $100. He wanted me on another project, starting the first of the next month. After a bit of negotiating, I agreed. He made it clear this was a big deal, a new client they wanted to impress. The deadlines were tight, and it was an all-hands-on-deck situation with nights and weekends expected. I wasn't thrilled about the brutal schedule, but I figured I would take the job. A few days before the project was set to start, he called again to let me know the engagement paperwork was on its way. "Check your email," he said. That's when I decided to get even. I told him I had changed my mind and wouldn't be taking the project after all. He exploded. "You agreed to work on this project weeks ago," he screamed. I waited for him to finish, then calmly threw his words right back at him. "You should have gotten it in writing."
Neighbor kept parking in my spot, so I gave her a taste of her own medicine. All right, this might not be the pettiest story ever, but at the time, it felt amazing. My apartment complex has assigned parking spots, 1 per unit, clearly marked. Simple enough, right? Well, apparently not for my new neighbor. For weeks, she kept parking in my spot after work. At first, I tried to be nice. Maybe she was confused or didn't realize, so I let it go. But when it kept happening, I left a polite note on her windshield, asking her to use her own spot. The next day I come home and guess what? Her car's still there. Oh, but now she's upped the ante. She crumpled my note and left it under her wiper for me to find, like some kind of defiant trophy. That's when I decided to stop being nice. If she wanted my spot so badly, fine. I would take hers. Every single day, without fail, I parked in her designated spot instead. It didn't take long, just 2 days, before she started leaving notes on my car. "Please stop parking in my spot." Well, the irony. I ignored them, of course. I kept switching spots with her until she finally knocked on my door, visibly annoyed, ready to confront me. When I answered, I played dumb and gave her my best confused look. I said, "I thought we were swapping spots since you've been using mine." She stood there stammering, trying to come up with some excuse. But we both knew that she was in the wrong, and she couldn't argue her way out of it. After that day, she finally stopped. Now every time I pull into my spot and see her car isn't parked there, it feels like a tiny victory.
Older cousin used me as a free maid for months, so I asked her mom for a pot. When I was 13, my older cousin pulled a fast one on me that lasted months. Recently, my dad reminded me of the whole thing. And while it's not a big deal, I can't help but smile every time I think about how it ended. Here's what happened. My cousin Ella had a young child and lived in a basement apartment under her parents with her boyfriend. One weekend, she asked me to babysit. As a bored, homeschooled teen who barely got to leave the house, let alone watch TV, I jumped at the chance. Plus, I figured I would make a little money. Win-win, right? Wrong. When I got there, Ella and her boyfriend left, and I started playing with her kid. But soon, he said he was hungry. I went to the kitchen to make him something, and the place was disgusting. Every dish was caked with food, pizza boxes were stacked higher than I could count, and the whole kitchen was just gross. There was no way I could cook in that mess, so I spent the next hour cleaning it before I could even think about making dinner. And that's how she got me. What I thought was a one-time babysitting gig turned into a weekly ritual. Every Saturday, Ella would call me over, and the kitchen is always in complete chaos. I would spend my time cleaning, cooking, and babysitting, without getting paid a single cent. At first, I thought maybe she was just too busy with the kid, but after months of this, it finally clicked. She wasn't asking me to babysit. She was using me as free maid service. One day, I had enough. I went to my dad and asked, "Do I have to go to Ella's this weekend? I don't feel good, and I'm tired of cleaning her house." He gave me this confused look and asked, "Why are you cleaning her house?" So, I told him. I explained the dirty dishes, the nasty kitchen, the whole routine. He just stared at me for a second before saying, "Oh no, you're not doing that anymore. Here's what you're going to do. Go over there tonight, just like usual. When it's time to make dinner, go to your aunt's house, Ella's mom, and ask her for a pot and some plates. Tell her you can't cook for the kid because there's not a single clean dish in the house." That evening, I did exactly what my dad told me. And just like that, Ella never asked me to babysit again.
Landlord decided to evict a tenant with a beautiful garden that he had planted himself and use that garden to increase the rent? Well, get wrecked, buddy. Here's the story. My friend is getting kicked out of his flat, which has a garden, because the landlord wants to charge much higher rent. My friend spent years cultivating this garden, pouring time, effort, and love into every single plant. Naturally, the landlord planned to use the garden as a selling point to hike the rent. The best part is, my friend carefully removed every single plant he had put in, leaving the garden completely bare. By the time the landlord realized what had happened, it was too late. My friend had waited until after the landlord had taken loads of photos for the ad, shown the property to potential tenants, and even had the new tenant sign a contract, expecting a lush, vibrant garden. Now it's nothing but a barren patch of dirt. The landlord is losing his mind, but honestly, what did he expect? Good luck explaining that to the new tenant.
My sister got revenge on her roommate for using her water bottles. My sister has this incredibly inconsiderate roommate. One of her most annoying habits is using my sister's reusable water bottles, not cleaning them properly, and then leaving them in her car for weeks. Anyone with reusable bottles knows you have to deep clean them regularly to avoid mold and gross buildup. My sister has asked her multiple times to stop, but the roommate didn't listen. So my sister decided enough was enough and got back at her in the best way possible. She took out all the rubber stoppers in the lids, the ones that keep the bottles from leaking. The roommate used the bottles again, and guess what? They leaked everywhere, leaving a huge wet mess in the back of her car. After that day, she finally stopped using my sister's bottles.
Mom was rude to me, so I locked her out of my Apple TV. I got my first big tattoo today. I've been planning it for years, and I was so excited to finally get it done. My family isn't big on tattoos, but I shared a picture in our group chat anyway, thinking, why not? My mom, who can be nasty for absolutely no reason, immediately replied, "How much did that cost you? Send me my money." Here's the thing. I don't even borrow money from her. A few days ago, I needed physical cash, and since she had some, she handed it to me. I transferred her the exact amount right after. I guess she didn't notice the transfer. Fine. But seriously, is it that hard to ask nicely? I was so salty, like I wanted to snap. But I politely pointed out that I'd already sent her the money. She ignored me. Whatever. I let it go, but I was quietly annoyed. An hour later, she texted me again. This time, she was asking how to log into my Apple TV account. Last week, I recommended a show and gave her my login details, but she'd had trouble logging in. I didn't even open the message. I just sat there, stewing in my petty satisfaction, thinking, let her struggle. She sent a few more frustrated texts before going silent. Curious, I checked the app and saw she'd finally managed to log in and had started watching the show. I've seen it, so I know how gripping it is in the first 15-20 minutes. Like, you're instantly hooked, sitting on the edge of your seat, dying to know what happens next. So I waited. I waited until I was certain she was completely hooked. Then I logged into my account, changed the password, and logged out of all devices. Not even 2 minutes later, my phone exploded with notifications. She was messaging me on every platform, begging me to help her log back in. I haven't opened a single message. I've stayed inactive on all platforms. She probably thinks I'm asleep. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here, heart racing, a mix of exhilaration and slight fear because, well, it's my mom. But honestly, I don't regret a single thing.